The anti-Trump FEMA scandal just got worse, and we're going to hear right from the horse's mouth, the fired FEMA official who apparently told people not to give aid to anyone with a MAGA sign in their front yard. You're going to see the latest from her in just a moment. Also, a big beef between Dr. Jill and Kamala. I told you they hated each other, and now we have the proof, and it's glorious. Also, the left-wing media going nuts because Trump is, what is it again? Oh, yeah, he's actually picking a cabinet of people who he can work with. How dare he? We'll get into all the details of that. And how exactly did Kamala Harris spend her $1 billion? We'll get into the ugly, ugly, glorious details coming up in just a moment. We're brought to you by Birch Gold, and we're back. My name is Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry. Days in Vegas with my brothers, and I appreciate you being patient while I took a day off. But we're going to extend. Normally we do a Monday show, but we took that day off, and we'll add it to the end of this week, so we'll have an extra Friday show. We're still giving you 4 this week. Don't worry about it. But thank you all for asking. Hey, where's Larry? Hey, where's Larry? That's where we were. Thanks for watching us today, streaming live on YouTube and Rumble and X on Facebook, wherever you're watching us. We appreciate it. You know what we appreciate more? Give us a like. I want to feel your thumbs all over my shoulders. I actually have a crick right here. If you could just a little below the neck, right above the shoulder blade. Thank you for that. You saw the story developing over the weekend, original reporting from the Daily Wire, that FEMA officials were instructing those people on the ground, the people who are actually giving out aid, to avoid houses that had Trump Vance signs out front. It's outrageous. It's disgusting. It's despicable. It's criminal. It's really, really bad. And there needs to be a full-blown investigation into the corruption in the FEMA and in the Biden administration. There's also corruption in how this story is being covered. Let's first look at how CBS News first presented the story to their viewers. I mean, pretty straightforward headline, except they didn't give credit to the actual original reporting that came from the Daily Wire because, it's a right-of-center news publication, so why give them credit in the tweet? FEMA worker fired after she directed workers helping hurricane survivors not to go to homes with yard signs supporting President-elect Donald Trump. Okay, now if you're a viewer of this program and you're plugged into the news cycle, you know that that's a picture of the FEMA director, right? But for most people in the world who aren't following the nuts and bolts and idiosyncrasies of the Biden administration and every hire they've got, you would assume that that woman right there is the worker in question, right? Why would CBS News not put a picture of the actual worker and instead put a picture of the FEMA director? Well, I don't know. The New York Post put a picture of the actual worker up there. That's the actual worker for FEMA who told FEMA aid workers who were trying to give relief and support to individuals on the ground suffering from Hurricane Helene. She's the one who told them to avoid houses that had Trump signs out front. But CBS News decided not to put her picture up there. It's almost like they're not telling their viewers the whole story. It's almost like they're telling their viewers a deceptive version of the story. But the deception doesn't end there. Look at these side-by-side New York Times articles. The first one from October 4th is a fact check on Donald Trump. Trump's false claims about the federal response to Hurricane Helene. The former president falsely accused the Biden administration of spending disaster funding on migrants, neglecting areas that had voted for Republicans and ignoring a call from a Republican governor. In other words, Trump had said, there's people suffering down here, but because they're in a red state and because Republicans are asking for help and Republican voters, they're not getting the aid they would normally get. New York Times said that was false. It was false. It was false. 1 month later, FEMA fires employees for telling Milton relief workers to skip houses with Trump signs. I haven't seen the correction on the October 4th headline yet. I haven't seen that reversal. I haven't seen we're not going to see that, are we, from the New York Times? You see, the election changed a lot 1 week ago today, but there's some things that are going to take a long time to change. That's why this show will keep going, I promise you. Well, now this fired official is speaking out. This fired official believes that she's being used as a scapegoat. This fired official says there's a lot more to this story that goes well beyond just her. So let's hear from her, shall we?
Stating that I was fired. They all alleged that these actions were made on my own recognizances and that it was for my own political advances. However, if you look at the record, there is what we call a community trend. And unfortunately, it just so happened that the political hostility that was encountered by my team, and I was on 2 different teams during this deployment, they just so happened to have the Trump campaign signage. FEMA always preaches avoidance first and then de-escalation. So this is not isolated. This is a colossal event of avoidance, not just in the state of Florida, but you will find avoidance in the Carolinas. Senior leadership will lie to you and tell you that they do not know. But if you ask the DSA crew leads and specialists what they are experiencing in the field, they will tell you. Demand for FEMA to give you those incident reports stating that.
All right. Now that's a lot there. And we're going to walk it through step by step here, because that's just the beginning of the bombshell. That's the tip of the corruption iceberg here. If this fired official is telling the truth. Now, I fully am aware that she could be in a CYA mode here, and she's just making this up. Say, oh, no, I was told to do this. We were all doing it. Everybody was doing it. That's quite possible. Or it's quite possible she's telling the truth. Let me just ask you something. If the roles were reversed and this was a Trump FEMA employee, and they had said, don't give any aid to anyone who has an Obama side out front, would the media be believing the testimony that you're hearing right now? I think they would. A couple of things that I just want to unpack here real fast.
I was fired. They all alleged that these actions were made on my own recognizances and that it was.
I think she means own recognizance. And last I checked, that phrase is used, like if you're released on bail and you're given a court date to come back, you're released on your own recognizance. In other words, you're on the trust system. I don't think she's exactly using that word that she wasn't able to pronounce properly in the correct fashion. I could be wrong. I hate to be the grammar police. I just think it gives context into the validity of the claims. All right, but one other thing that she said here that I think is really worth noting.
I was on 2 different teams during this deployment. They just so happened to have the Trump campaign signage. FEMA always preaches avoidance first and then de-escalation. So this is not isolated. This is a colossal event of avoidance, not just in the state.
That's the phrase, a colossal event of avoidance. God, government language is so brilliant, isn't it? They use phrases like this just to sort of not say anything. A colossal event of avoidance. Let's see, as we learn more from this fired FEMA employee, what else is there exactly?
So if you turned in reports to your supervisors that state political hostility for the people in the field, those reports exist.
Yes, hence why I also sent you screenshots where they're deleting files now from my computer. So FEMA says they fired me, but I still have access to the systems and their applications. And while I was in an interview yesterday, I noticed that my files were being deleted in my name, and I could not have been doing that while I was talking to Madison. So FEMA is very well aware of the incidents that take place, not just with my crew, but with all of the crews in the state that's declared. And instead of just saying, hey, this is how we're going to mitigate it to protect our people, they decided to fire me and make sure Donald Trump knows that they are loyal to him because they fear retribution.
All right. Now, a couple of things here, just so I can explain exactly what's happening. She's claiming that when they were on the ground trying to give out aid and trying to contact people who were suffering from the hurricane, that they were met with hostility, threatening behavior from political activists, from MAGA types who were hostile to the government, hostile to FEMA, hostile to her, hostile to fellow FEMA workers. And she claims that she wrote that up, and that explained why they then said, hey, let's avoid all the signs. Let's avoid all the houses that have Trump signs. That's her claim. All right. And she claims that she had those files. She went in to try to save them and preserve them. And she saw them being deleted in real time to cover it up. Because, and again, you have to believe her story, FEMA was so intent on being on the good side of Donald Trump, who's on his way in. That's her story. Now, either way, we've got corruption at FEMA. We've got big-time corruption at FEMA, and I would argue anti-Trump corruption at FEMA, anti-Trump voter. And there's another word for a Trump voter, by the way. That would be an American citizen, a tax-paying American citizen who is suffering from hurricane disaster effects, and they're in full need of government aids. And if they treat you hostilely, I'm sorry, your job is to still help them out. They may be in kind of a stressful situation. Their home just got washed out by a hurricane. So forgive them if they're a little prickly right now. But if they greeted you with attitude, it's not because they voted for Trump. And even if it is, it's not incumbent on you to decide, oh, okay, then you're not going to get any of this federal money. Screw you. Okay, but set that aside for a moment. Even if you believe everything that she's saying, you've got corruption because they denied people across the board just because they had a sign out. Sure, maybe somebody was hostile and obnoxious and even rude, maybe even racist, maybe even threatening. But that doesn't mean every single person with a Trump sign is going to be threatening, rude, or racist. You can't just decide that. Okay, so that's right there. You've got a scandal. Number two, she's fired, but she still has her login and she can access her files. That's a scandal of incompetence. You show me any workplace that you've got that would do that. Number three, if she's telling the truth, they were deleting evidence that would support her claim of wrongful termination. That's a cover-up. Scandal upon scandal upon scandal. And if she's lying, the original story stands, scandal. More.
The important thing is here, once we start seeing a trend, for example, if they just so happen to have these Trump campaign signs in front of their home, and that's the characteristic that's coming along with that, we have to proceed with precaution. So avoidance first and then de-escalation.
We have to proceed with, I think she meant proceed with caution, not proceed with precaution. But I just want to say something here. You know, every time we see one of those signs, you know, that's the common denominator. And as we see that trend, then we got to proceed with precaution and not move forward. What if the sign was a Black Lives Matter sign and she was making the same claim? Do you think that it would be embraced and excused? What if it was one of those hate has no home here signs? A better question. What if it was an American flag out in front of all the homes? Hey, you know, all these people have been rude to us. Have you noticed they have American flags out in front of their home? It's a trend. We should proceed with precaution. There will be people in the media who will take this story and say, oh, well, you know, it does make sense. You got a Trump sign out there. Do you know why they will take this story and they'll rationalize it and excuse it? Because they agree. Because they see the signs that have Trump, and they immediately jump to a conclusion. Oh, I bet they have guns in that house. I bet they're violent. I bet they're racist. I bet they're QAnon. That's why there will be people in the media who excuse it. Roland Martin, the person who's interviewing here, you know, I would probably push back a little bit. Well, hold on. You're basically excusing discrimination here and bigotry. It just so happens that the bigotry isn't because of skin color. It's because of a yard sign. But bigotry is bigotry.
And that's the thing. Our superiors know that. We have constant conversations about keep your people safe. If your people are uncomfortable, then just don't go.
So explain this to me, please. Explain this to me. Okay. So I'm just trying to understand what that means. So again, if I'm on a house, if I'm on a street and it has 20 homes, and there are 8 homes on that street with Trump signs, and my team has faced hostility from 3 of the homes that have signs. What happens next?
I inform my TFL, my direct report, hey, we're again experiencing hostile encounters. We're moving on to another street. We're not canvassing those homes.
So again, only for go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And that's the directive too. Like honestly, he has called me multiple times and says, your job is to keep the team safe.
I'm sorry, when you say he, who's he?
Oh, Chad Hershey.
Okay, who's Chad Hershey?
The TFL my assigned TFL for this deployment.
So Chad Hershey has told you what?
That if your team is uncomfortable and they do not feel safe, do not go to those homes. Go and canvass the other homes. Your job is to keep these people safe. They need to be able to go back home safe.
All right. So there it is. They were told, they were ordered. And this is the one who got fired. And now she's saying, you taking me down? We're taking everybody down with me. Specifically told, if you feel, I love the two phrases are very interesting here. Uncomfortable and unsafe. Now, the way we fuck around with language these days, you know, our college kids snowflakes feel unsafe if somebody is wearing a, you know, American flag lapel pin. Unsafe is, you know, these people feel unsafe if they're confronted with anything that they disagree with. But even to take it to uncomfortable. Oh, if you feel uncomfortable, then you just move on and we won't canvass there. These Trump signs make me feel uncomfortable. Let's go on. Yeah, but ma'am, the house is flooded and I'm hearing people screaming for help inside the house. Nope, move on. They have a Trump sign. I feel unsafe. I feel uncomfortable. The scandal just got worse. Are you seeing it elsewhere in the media? I hope so. If you're not, ask them why, and then keep coming back here for more. Well, it's been 1 week since the election, and for a lot of us who were holding our breath, we can now, we can exhale. Work can finally be done on the major issues this country is facing, and one of the most significant is our national debt. The fact is, the nation is broke, and that debt is a house of cards that can't quickly be dismantled. So the strategy remains the same. Diversify your savings. So many things are out of our control, out of President Trump's control. It's important to have a safe haven for your savings. Birch Gold Group will help you convert an IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold. And the best news is it doesn't cost you a penny out of pocket. Just text my name, Larry, Larry, to 989898. Get a free info kit on gold. And right now, through Black Friday, through the day after Thanksgiving, you'll receive a free 1-ounce silver eagle for every $5,000 purchase. That's awesome. We're giving you free silver. You're welcome. Diversify your savings with Birch Gold. Text Larry to 989898 and claim your eligibility for free silver today.
Larry, we've got 2 super chats.
We already have some super chats. My God, you guys are awesome. Thank you, Kevin. What do we got? $9.99 from Angela Deaver. Here's $10 for a bucket of liberal tears. They are crying. In fact, our next segment is all about those tears. It's amazing. Time to turn the page and close the book on the boy who cried wolf. Bring back happy days. What will be unburdened by what has been. Praise the Lord, Mega. What a well-crafted super chat, Angela. We really appreciate that. Thanks for the $10. It will be spent very well on those liberal tears. And Dennis Harmon with a big old $250. Dennis, thank you so much, dude. That is so kind of you. It'll go to good use, I promise. Kevin needs a mustache trim. And that ain't cheap. That fancy salon you go to, that bougie place that you go to get your mustache trim. Should we tell everyone about that, Kevin?
It's a price I'm willing to pay to look this good.
It's true. I'm not complaining. And neither are all the women in the office. And 10% of the men. Donald Trump is already driving the mainstream media insane. I mean, crazy. We knew that this second term, he's going to be unhinged, right? He's got no restraints. He's got no guardrails. He's got immunity. He can do anything. He's going to send in SEAL Team 6 and kill Nancy Pelosi or whatever the hell they were claiming he was going to do. It's the end of democracy. Do you want proof positive? Take a look at this. Take a look at this. He's already announced preliminary appointments for his cabinet. And look at them. They're all people who agree with him. They're all people who will actually carry out his agenda. Who in the hell does Donald Trump think he is? In fact, they all seem to be people who are pretty competent and capable of carrying out his agenda and then going on cable news and defending that agenda when they're mercilessly attacked by the media. I mean, you can understand why everybody is upset. Who does this ruthless, undemocratic bastard think he is? Imagine a time when a president of the United States actually is able to select people he likes and who like him and support his agenda and will actually be able to carry out his agenda. I don't know what this country is coming to. Honestly, it makes you want to move to Canada. I wish I were overstating the case, but that's really, really what their reaction is. Let's take two of these gentlemen as perfect examples. In your lower left corner, border czar Tom Homan. And by the way, a lot of people are like, will he be the ICE director? Will he be Secretary of Homeland Security? Will he be, what will his title be? I love, it's French kiss exquisite that Donald Trump said, let's call you the border czar, considering that's what Kamala was. But then she wasn't. But then she was. But then she wasn't. And Homan's like, hey, Mr. President, make me the czar. Come on. I want the fez. I want the sash. I'm going to be a full-on czar. Epaulets, maybe. The czar has undefined responsibilities. He can just say, all right, Tom, do this, and get it done. Also, a czar does not face Senate confirmation. Win-win. All right, and then in the upper right-hand corner is one Stephen Miller, White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy. All right, so let's take those two in particular. Tom Homan, we featured a video with Tom Homan on 60 Minutes 2 weeks ago. Remember when he was confronted by the reporters saying, you know, well, how can you deport parents of children that were born here without separating the families? And he goes, simple, we deport the whole family. Keep the family together, go. When you're an adult, you can come back. Or if you've got an aunt and uncle here, fine. But, you know, it's not up to us. We're deporting the people who are criminals and aren't supposed to be here. It's not our fault they had a baby. So Tom Homan is actually going to do what he said he was going to do and what Donald Trump promised he would do. And last I checked, Donald Trump just won the election in an overwhelming landslide fashion. So, of course, the ladies on The View are outraged.
It's chilling what he just said. You realize that when he says, yes, families can be deported together, what he is saying is that U.S. citizens can be deported. What he is saying is if the parent is undocumented and they have U.S. citizen children or U.S. citizen spouse, or and you don't want to separate them, then let's deport the U.S. citizens. Look, Donald Trump won the electoral vote. He won. He's going to win the House. He won the Senate. For all effects and purposes, he's got the Supreme Court. They've given him immunity.
I think she meant for all intents and purposes, not effects and purposes. Again, she's been here a long time. I think she knows the language. It's weird when they do things like this. But I'll let her finish. I hate to nitpick, but I just think it's funny that the people who are paid to speak, and she's even reading her remarks, paid to speak, can't actually do it.
This is what the country voted for. This is, you know, a lot of people thought that when he talked about mass deportations, he wasn't being serious. I don't know how many times he had to say it for people to realize he was being serious. Well, if you thought he wasn't being serious, the appointment of Tom Homan today as border czar, and he will be in charge of a mass deportation program, the largest the country has ever seen, they say. And now Stephen Miller as deputy chief of staff should let you know that he was absolutely serious. And when you talk about mass deportations, people think, oh, it's just going to be the criminals. There's not enough criminals, aliens in the federal prison system for it to be mass deportations. What it means is grandmothers. What it means is brothers and aunts. What it means is abuelos y abuelas. It means dreamers. It means your family members. It means your colleagues. It means your friends. It means people who are part of the society. And look, America, you know, those of you who voted for Trump, this is what you wanted. This is what you voted for. You screwed around and you're about to find out.
Yes. Yes. That is exactly what we voted for. You know, there's another way to frame this. And of course, listen, this is the beauty of having facts in front of you that then get communicated in your own style through the prism of your own political perspective. So she just relayed to you facts, and they're all true. I will relay to you the exact same facts. Donald Trump promised during the campaign, and now he's making good on his promise, that he will enforce our immigration laws as they are written. The laws that were debated and passed in the House and the Senate and then given to the president and signed into law many, many years ago, laws that have been on the books for many decades, Donald Trump will now finally enforce those laws. That's what deportation of criminal illegal aliens means, because that's the law. Ana Navarro would have the president ignore the law, as the presidents have ignored the laws for decades now. She doesn't like the law. If she doesn't like the law, you know, we live in a constitutional republic with a bicameral branch of government known as the legislative and then an executive branch. That's how they make these laws. And if she doesn't like the law that's on the books, then maybe she should petition the people in the House and the Senate to change it. But as long as the law is on the books, why is Ana Navarro telling her audience that the virtuous thing is to ignore the law? Because that's how we got here. And about the abuelos and abuelas, let me ask you something, Ana Navarro. First of all, we do have tens, if not hundreds, we have hundreds of thousands of criminals. You're right, they should be in federal prison, but they're not. They're walking the streets. But the ones that are in federal prison, they should be deported. The criminals that are walking the streets that the Biden administration let roam free, they should be deported. She's lying to you. We have hundreds of thousands of criminal illegal aliens in this country to begin with. But this whole thing about the abuelas and the abuelos who are here illegally and they're going to be deported. So, Ana Navarro, can I ask you something? If a 50-year-old man just entered our country illegally a month ago and is trying to get a job and is living on the street, and he happens to be a grandfather, do you disagree that he should be deported? I mean, she's making it sound like it's someone who's been in this country for 30 years and they've established themselves and they've got generations that have been born here and all of that jazz, which, by the way, if that's the case, I'd love to know how they were able to sustain themselves for 3 decades, since it's illegal to work here unless you've stolen somebody's identity. But set that aside for a moment. If somebody just crossed the border and they're a grandfather, they're an abuelo, Anna, and they're in the country illegally and they're living on the street and they're getting free benefits and they're trying to take a job that should go to a U.S. citizen, why shouldn't they get deported? No, you need to, no. It's not on me to explain why I think the law should be enforced, because I'm on the moral high ground here. The law is the law. The question is for you. Why shouldn't that person be deported? Why should we all pay for that person? And why should we encourage that person to take a job that my grandfather could get? Well, my grandfather is no longer with us, but you get my point. All the same facts. It just, it depends on how you want to relay them to your audience.
Have U.S. citizen children or U.S. citizen spouse, or and you don't want to separate them, then let's deport the U.S. citizens. When you talk about mass deportations, people think, oh, it's just going to be the criminals. There's not enough criminals, aliens in the federal prison system for it to be mass deportation.
All right, so you and I just saw that clip, but what you're about to see is one of those delicious moments that we all crave for. We get to hear Tom Homan, the man who's being attacked and targeted here, respond. You see, The View would never have Tom Homan to ask him questions and challenge his policies because they're cowards. But on Fox News, Tom Homan had that exact opportunity, and it's going to be great.
What it means is grandmothers. What it means is brothers and aunts. Yep. What it means is abuelos y abuelas. It means dreamers. It means your family members. It means your colleagues.
Well, the propaganda war has begun. Here with more is America's next border czar. Tom Homan is with us. Tom, welcome back to the program. Great to have you. Are you planning on deporting American citizens?
No, exactly not. Look, The View, it's like the island of misfit toys. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. President Trump has made it clear. We will prioritize public safety threats and national security threats first. And that's what the focus will be. And there's over 1.5 convicted criminal aliens in this country with final orders removal that we're going to be looking for. There's thousands of gang members, illegal alien gang members we're going to be looking for. Now, I'm going to say, if you're in the country illegally, you shouldn't feel comfortable. Absolutely not. I won't feel comfortable if I'm in the country illegally. If I'm in some other country illegally, I'm not going to be comfortable. You shouldn't be comfortable either, because when you enter this country illegally, you have committed a crime. You are a criminal, and you're not off the table.
That's right. And that's the bottom line. And everyone's like, oh, there's not going to be mass deportation. There might not need to be mass deportations. After the first 500,000 to 1 million get deported, I'm thinking the rest of them are going to leave on their own. I've got a better idea, in fact. If anyone's like, because I know, you've all got devices, you've all got smartphones that I'm probably paying for. You're welcome. If you happen to stumble upon this and you're in the country illegally and you're feeling a little nervous about the future, listen to me. Listen, go to Canada. Go to Canada. They'll love you there. They want you there. They're a safe haven. I promise. It's really easy to get there. The easiest way is to just walk across the porous border to the north. If you happen to swing by Detroit first, get yourself some Detroit Lions swag because they are 8-1, baby. And then just walk across the Ambassador Bridge and you're in Windsor, Ontario. It's fantastic. Go to Canada. You'll be fine. If you're worried, I don't want you to be worried. They will welcome every abuela and abuelo with open arms up in Canada. And they've got great maple syrup. Lousy hockey, though. But you'll love it. Go to Canada. You want to hear some more from your border czar? I know I do. Go for it, Homan.
Country, or all told, more than 400,000 criminal, illegal immigrants, including known terrorists. They're here, but we don't know where they are. How are we going to find them to get rid of them?
Look, ICE is very good at what they do. We have a targeting system. I can't really talk about it on the air because it's law enforcement sensitive, but we're going to find them. And look, we're going to go get them. I saw today numerous governors from sanctuary states saying they're going to step in the way. They better get the hell out of the way. Either you help us or get the hell out of the way because ICE is going to do their job. We're going to take the handcuffs off ICE that the Biden administration put on them and let ICE what they do best. And let me say this. Back to the viewer, Joe Biden. This administration promised they're going to concentrate on the criminal aliens. That was a priority. Secretary Mayorkas said it. I looked at the stats today. The removal of criminal aliens is down 74% from President Trump. We have more criminals here than we ever had. So we got plenty of targets out there, and the men and women of this new administration are going to go look for them. They're going to look for them in sanctuary cities. If sanctuary cities don't want help, get out of the way. I'll double the workforce in that sanctuary city. We're going to do our job. Despite the politics, we're doing it. So get used to it because we're coming.
It's a very powerful moment, but also powerful is this scrolling screen next to Homan. And good job, the production team there at Hannity doing this, because I want you to know that every single one of the victims that's detailed here, victims of a heinous violent crime in this country, Anna Navarro and the cast at The View, they don't care about them. They don't care about the 14-year-old. They don't care about this 13-year-old raped in Queens. They don't care about Elizabeth Medina, 16-year-old stabbed to death in Jackson County, Texas. No, they care about the murderer. They care about the rapist. Their language, everything that animates them, everything that brought Anna Navarro to tears over the abuela and abuela. I'm sorry. What about Ruperto Mondragon, murdered in Dallas? He's an abuelo. You don't care about that abuelo, Anna? We all choose what we get animated and emotional about. Me, I'm a little concerned about the 15-year-old girl in Montgomery County who was raped. I'm weird that way. I would only quarrel with one thing, though. When Tom Homan says, these sanctuary states are not going to cooperate, then he says, well, fine, get out of the way. I'll double down my resources. Actually, he should do the opposite. When New York and Massachusetts and Illinois and Maryland and California and all these other virtue signaling states all say, we're a sanctuary state, we are not going to cooperate with ICE. Tom Homan, the border czar, should say, okay, fine. Let the world know that every single criminal, illegal alien in this country who faces deportation, they can go to Massachusetts, and apparently you'll be protected. Go ahead. In fact, I'm going to pull my resources out of your state. There's no reason to spend resources in your state. We will secure the states who cooperate with the Trump administration on this endeavor, and those states who do not cooperate, I guess you'll be a safe haven. You don't have to go to Canada now. Just go to California, go to Illinois, go to New York, go to Massachusetts. Let's see how long that lasts before we see red states across this nation. That's what he should do. Pull all the resources and all the money out of those states and let them fend for themselves. Let's see how long that lasts. But it's not just Tom Homan driving them crazy. Again, this bastard, Donald Trump, dares to actually appoint people who not only agree with him, but are loyal, who aren't going to backstab him and leak to the media anonymously. Just take a look at the rage over Stephen Miller as deputy chief of staff. When was the last time you heard anyone in the media complaining about the appointment of a deputy chief of staff? I got a better question for you. Can you name Joe Biden's deputy chief of staff? Thank you. Can you name his chief of staff? Thank you.
Theory. Maria, what does this mean for America to have him in Donald Trump's ear?
I think it's one of the most concerning picks that we have seen thus far, Sarah. Not surprising, but incredibly concerning, not just because of all of the clips that you just ran, but because we know that this is somebody who does not believe that this country should be open or should be welcoming of any immigrants, frankly. And what's going to be interesting is moving forward, he said that they're going to start mass deportation on day one. And that is going to be, first of all, it has already injected terror, chaos, fear, division among so many immigrants and communities of color around the country. I've got so many calls and texts from my friends who are terrified about what is going to happen, even people who are here with legal status, because I don't think that at the end of the day, they're going to really make any kind of distinction between the criminal undocumented, which, by the way, the criminal undocumented are being deported. That is a policy that is being adhered to. But it also, I think, indicates that there's a lot of talk here, Sarah, and it's going to be very improbable that they're going to really be able to do this from a policy standpoint and from a budgetary standpoint. So we'll see what happens. But right now, it has only injected fear and terror in America's communities.
I love it. I love it. Everybody's terrified because they're going to do exactly what they said they were going to do, but they don't have the money or the ability to do it anyway. So they're never going to actually fulfill their promise. So what exactly are we afraid of? I love how they have it both ways. What exactly are we supposed to be afraid of? I don't care. Just be terrified. That's how we get votes. We're Democrats. Meanwhile, I'll let Jen Psaki have the last word here because her biggest beef with Donald Trump's appointments is that he's actually chosen people who will remain loyal. You know, everyone in the media is like, oh my God, these guys, they're not going to backstab Trump. They're not going to give me illegal anonymous leaks. How are we going to function? These guys are all, they're all loyal to Trump. They actually agree with them. You know, like the majority of Americans in this country. Okay, Jen, what's the real danger here?
Walz is a Trump loyalist, an election denier, and a NATO critic who echoes Trump's skepticism about supporting Ukraine. Earlier today, Trump selected Congresswoman Elise Stefanik for UN ambassador. She's, of course, a moderate total MAGA loyalist. She's going to be filling the job that Nikki Haley had during the first Trump administration. Oh, and the guy rumored to be in the running for CIA or FBI director is Kash Patel. Now, The Atlantic wrote recently about him, quote, that even in an administration full of loyalists, Patel was exceptional in his devotion.
Yeah, unlike Jen Psaki, who is not in any way loyal or devoted to Joe Biden or Barack Obama or John Kerry, the three individuals that she's worked for in her professional career. Yeah, because the last thing you want is loyalty. This is amazing. Is there anything that exemplifies Washington, D.C. rot and the Democrat media complex coined by Andrew Breitbart than what you just saw? This is a woman who worked in the Kerry campaign in '84, then the Obama campaign, then John Kerry's State Department, then Obama's White House press secretary, then Biden's White House press secretary. Then she becomes a news anchor on MSNBC, and she goes on a diatribe about Trump picking people who are loyal to him. You can't make this up. They are so outraged at what's about to happen, what's happening right now before their eyes. And just seeing Kash Patel and imagining him as the director of the CIA. Honestly, I'm starting to get a little lightheaded with euphoria. And it's just begun. We're just 1 week in. God, this is going to be great. All right. Now, we told you during the campaign that Kamala Harris and Jill Biden hate each other, that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden hate each other. We've been telling you that for months and months. Actually, I've been saying it since the day the ticket was formed. I mean, don't forget, Kamala Harris tried to end Joe Biden's campaign for president back in 2019 by calling him a racist. Remember that little girl was me. Didn't go very far. And then Joe Biden was trapped by Team Obama. He had to pick a woman of color, and Kamala Harris, I guess, was the best possible choice he had, which tells you something about his judgment and also tells you something about the talent pool over there in the Democratic Party. But be that as it may, we were right before Joe Biden jumped off the ticket. We were seeing narratives that were floated by the Biden people, floated by Jill potentially herself, saying that Joe might drop Kamala from the ticket. And then, well, things changed. Well, they had their very first public appearance yesterday at a Veterans Day recognition event at Arlington National Cemetery, which is strange, by the way. I could be wrong, but I thought Arlington Cemetery was the place for Memorial Day and such. Veterans Day, I thought that they actually acknowledged it other places. I could be wrong on that. But here we are at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, and here's Kamala Harris arriving. She's to sit right next to Jill Biden, and Jill Biden does not even look up to acknowledge her. Do you see that? Jill's in the sunglasses there. She's the sort of dishwater, dirty, bleach blonde there, sitting there. You can see her. And watch as she arrives. Look at Jill Biden just staring straight ahead with her sunglasses on. No handshake, no acknowledgement. That was a shake of the hand from Secretary of State, outgoing Secretary of State Antony Blinken. And then Kamala and Doug sit down. Stone face. Let's look at it from a different angle. God, it's good. There's Dr. Jill just staring straight ahead, refusing to acknowledge Kamala's and you can feel it. Can you not feel it? God, they hate each other. It's glorious to watch, actually. It's 100% glorious to behold. And we're already starting to get the little leaks, the little leaks. I told you this was going to happen. Remember when I said I can't wait until after the election because Joe Biden's going to go on a victory tour. He's going to write a book that's called I Would Have Won. This was win-win for Joe Biden. If she won, he can claim that it's his legacy and a validation of his presidency. If she loses, he can say, you fools, what were you thinking? But everyone forgets Jill and how bitter and angry she is. She got the trappings of power. She loved her limo. She loved meals cooked for her. She's got to deal with this old fart on the beach now who can barely walk on the sand. This is not the life she wanted for her last 20 years. She wanted to be the toast of the town in Washington, D.C. Now she's got to go back to Delaware. She's not even welcome in Washington anymore. It's a sad, sad state of affairs for her. I'm really, really brokenhearted for her. No, really. And as you hear many of the excuses being floated here in Washington, D.C., there's one curious one in particular, and that is this isn't Kamala's fault. This is Joe's fault. Oh, yeah. No. They hate each other. So you keep hearing Kamala ran a flawless campaign. A flawless campaign. She only had 107 days after all. She didn't have time to introduce herself to the American people. It's funny. The moment she started introducing herself by actually doing interviews and the debate and various things, that's when her poll numbers went down. Because as soon as she introduced herself to the American people, we realized we hate this woman. So one of the things that's floated here is that she was flawless. It was Joe's fault for not stepping down earlier, right? But there's a solution. Joe Biden can finally do right by Kamala Harris. He can fix what he broke here by insisting on running for re-election. Oh, yeah, there's a solution here. Just watch.
Is looking for. That is my question. I'll start with you.
Joe Biden's been a phenomenal president. He's lived up to so many of the promises he's made. There's one promise left that he could fulfill, being a transitional figure. He could resign the presidency in the next 30 days. Make Kamala Harris the president of the United States.
Whoa.
It would absolve her from being able to from having to oversee the January 6th transition, right, of her own defeat, and it would make sure that it would dominate the news at a point where Democrats have to learn drama and transparency and doing things that the public want to see. Is the time. This is the moment for us to change the entire perspective of how Democrats.
Okay, this is now jumped from an internet meme to a Sunday morning show.
Jamal's out here right now.
Congratulations.
Season of House of Cards.
I thought you were going to say, what about the Supreme Court? That's also out there.
Well, the Supreme Court might happen. I don't know if it will, but I think this is something that's
Yeah, the Supreme Court, that's even better. And we'll get to the Supreme Court thing in a minute. But there you go. Joe can fix the problem. Joe can right this wrong. Joe needs to resign the presidency. Kamala Harris becomes the president for the last 2 months, thus making her the first woman president in American history. So she gets that moment. She gets the monument down on the mall. So we can all be unburdened by what has been. And then she doesn't have to deal with the indignity of having to validate the Electoral College results on January 6th. Come on, Joe, do the right thing. And, you know, Joe was like, go yourselves. She had her chance. Not just no, hell no. Of course, Joe's not going to do that. But how despicable, how absolutely entitled do you have to be to actually float that out there and think that that's a reasonable thing? And by the way, nobody at the panel stopped for a moment. In fact, maybe it would have been the journalist, Dana Bash, who could have stepped in and said, excuse me, but the American people just overwhelmingly said that they don't want her to be president. Isn't this sort of playing into the assumption that there's sort of a deep state sort of mechanism and machine that happens below the surface and behind the scenes that just does whatever the it wants? So you wanted her to be president. She lost the election, but it's okay. We're going to figure something out anyway and make her the president. Don't you worry, perhaps, that sort of validates people who think that you all are going to ignore the will of the American people and do whatever you want anyway? But no one sitting there thought to bring that up. It's like, it's almost like being the president of the United States is an incredible, rare privilege and honor that shouldn't just be, handed down as some sort of participation trophy to Kamala Harris, who just had the greatest epic failure in American political history. Yes, even compared to Hillary Clinton. But no, just make her president. And then the Supreme Court thing is even better. They want Sonia Sotomayor to resign so that Biden can appoint Kamala Harris as the Supreme Court justice. First of all, she's not going to do that, number one. Number two, he's not going to do that. And number three, even if she did and even if he did, there's no way the Senate will confirm her in time. It's impossible. But you know what? I want her to step down, Sonia Sotomayor. Do it. Show America how they really treat the only Latina on the bench, the wise Latina. They're done with you. You served your purpose. You're gone. Step down so Trump can replace you on day one. That'd be beautiful. Do it. Do it. But these are all the games that are being played in Washington, D.C., because it's almost like they don't accept the results of the election. It's almost like they don't care what happened a week ago today. They're just going to go ahead and do what they want anyway. Almost like that. Meanwhile, there's confirmation now behind the scenes to the New York Times. Selena Wang says that Nancy Pelosi, and I'm quoting you now, had Biden gotten out sooner, there may have been another candidate in the race. All right, so apparently this was always the plan. You'll remember Pelosi and Obama. When Biden stepped down, they immediately said, we can now have a process. We're going to have a process. It'll be a truncated process, but we'll have a process to determine our nominee, right? And apparently that's what Pelosi wanted. And now they're blaming Biden for not stepping down sooner so they could have done this. By the way, you did have the opportunity to have a process. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. actually filed the paperwork to run as a Democrat nominee. You forced him out. You created this entire scenario. Biden didn't have to drop out. He could have just faced opposition and let, I don't know, the people decide. That's not unprecedented. George Herbert Walker Bush faced a challenge from Pat Buchanan in 1992 within his own party in that primary as an incumbent president. Jimmy Carter faced a challenge in 1980 from Ted Kennedy as an incumbent president. No, I know they both lost eventually, and maybe it was because of division within the own party, but you had your own division. You just squelched it and silenced it and tamped it down with your authoritarian tactics by not having a primary process. You didn't need Biden to step down. It's remarkable how they're trying to, and the media goes along with it. Yeah, you're right. He should have stepped down. No, the media should say, wait, he didn't need to step down. You should have just allowed the process to move forward, have debates, open it up to other candidates. But they refused. So let's go back to the quote. The anticipation was that if the president were to step aside, that there would be an open primary. And as I say, Kamala may have. I think she would have done well in that and been stronger going forward, but we don't know that. That didn't happen. We live with what happened. And because the president endorsed Kamala Harris immediately, that really made it almost impossible to have a primary at the time. If it had been much earlier, it would have been different. So Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama, the powers who pulled the strings, and Chuck Schumer, none of them wanted Kamala. None of them wanted Biden to endorse Kamala. But you remember, he did that like 3 hours after he announced he wasn't running. He then put out a statement saying, I support Kamala Harris, and it was over. It was over. He submarined them. He can I say it? He blocked them there. Friend of this program, Corey Inganamore, points out, after seeing this quote from Nancy Pelosi, that it appears Mark Halperin's original reporting was right. Pelosi's plan was for an open primary. Biden stuck it to the establishment, who threw him out by endorsing Kamala 30 minutes after dropping out. This is why Obama World Schumer were so late to endorse. They didn't want her. And in fact, the aforementioned Mark Halperin, who had been reporting this, commented on Corey's post at X and said, yeah, despite what the ignorant haters want to say, Biden was not supposed to endorse Harris that first day. In fact, many around the vice president didn't want him to endorse out of concern that it was going to hurt her. She's earning the nomination narrative. But after I broke the story, Biden came under enormous pressure to endorse the day he dropped out, and he succumbed to that, deeply setting back the efforts. By the way, Halperin reported this 3 days before it happened. Deeply setting back the efforts of those who wanted Biden out and someone besides Harris to be the nominee. So when I reported that Biden was getting out and not endorsing, it was accurate. Journalists never like their reporting to impact events, but in this case, mine did. And haters gonna hate. Mark Halperin's an odd duck, and he shouldn't quote Taylor Swift when posting on X. But either way, that's what really happened behind the scenes. And did I mention that they all hate each other? They all hate each other. And, you know, they're not alone. All right. Oh, we're clipping along here. Let's go. While we perform the autopsy on the fetid, rotting corpse that is the Kamala Harris for President campaign, there's going to be a lot of people saying, oh, this went wrong and that went wrong. The tell-alls that are going to come out about this campaign are going to be phenomenal. If you're a political junkie like I am, you're going to love it. While I wait for those books to come out, I'm going to go back and read Shattered. That was the one that was written about the Hillary Clinton campaign, you know, where they reveal that a day after the campaign, Hillary and John Podesta and their campaign manager got together and created the Russian collusion narrative to make an excuse as to why they lost the campaign. Well, they're coming up with something right now, and they'll blame Putin or Trump or China or who knows what. We'll have to wait for the books to come out, but we're already hearing things. We're also seeing some great reporting by the handful of right-of-center journalists in this town. I would just refer to them as journalists who are doing the real work that the liberals aren't doing. And here's one of the best blockbusters. Oh, I set up the wrong segment just now, didn't I? All right, Kevin, let's use that setup.
Womp womp.
Oh, sorry, guys. Let's use that setup and then cut right in with this. I like to screw up sometimes to remind everybody that we don't use a script on this show. It's all off the top of my head. Sometimes that's impressive. Sometimes I'm an asshole. All right. What did I say? Oh, impressive reporting. And here's one of the blockbusters. Now we'll just go right to the video.
We learned two things about Kamala this election. She's good at raising money and she's good at blowing it. But money can't buy you elections, especially when you spend it like she did. She raked in more than $1 billion and is somehow now in debt. The Washington Examiner dug through her financial statements and gave us a good clue why. Kamala's campaign was getting whacked like a piñata while D.C. leeches hoovered up all the cash. She spent over $50 million on payroll. Trump's campaign spent less than 10. Another 12 million went to consultants, and 20 million went to their little concerts with Lady Gaga, Katy Perry, Christina Aguilera, John Bon Jovi, remember him? They even had to cancel a performance by Alanis Morissette because they were running low on cash. Isn't that ironic? Campaign insiders are mad at the bosses for wasting donor money on concerts instead of ads about, the economy. Quote, they said they were spending to zero. I guess they overshot zero. Ads would have gone a lot further than the pricey celebrity endorsements. One campaign source said people were concerned about their own financial issues, not Oprah telling them America won't exist. But it worked out nicely for Oprah. She got her friend Kamala to pay her $1 million to interview her in September. $1 million. Now, if she thought she was saving democracy, she should have done it for free. Kamala scared donors by calling Trump a dictator, got $1 billion, then just gave it to her friends and blew the rest on being a diva. Kamala went on a podcast, remember Call Her Daddy, but she didn't want to go to their studio in LA. So she made the host fly to DC and used campaign cash to build a fake set in a hotel room. She spent more than $100,000 to build it. That set, see it? 2 chairs, a coffee table, and a bookshelf. That's 6 figures. Now, we looked at the set. We probably could have done it for around $6,000. That's without labor. But where'd the rest of the money go? We don't know. So she's still trying to soak folks for cash. 24 hours after the election, on Wednesday, Democrats got a text from the campaign. Urgent. We need help. Donate now. Help with what? You lost. If this is how she's going to spend her donors' dollars, imagine what she would have done with our taxes.
Yeah, that is the biggest takeaway, too. She was going to fix the economy, and she couldn't even run her own campaign. But something stuck out to me that really, there's a lot in there, and we're going to unpack quite a bit of it. But you're probably thinking the same thing I'm thinking. $100,000? $100,000 on that set? $100,000 on that set. And I guess that is cheaper, by the way. Oh, that's right. Well, all we know is 6 figures, so a minimum of 100,000, Kevin. It is cheaper than flying to LA, I suppose, with the whole entourage and the military jets and the Secret Service and all that stuff. But that's what you get for $100,000. Can I just tell you something? You're familiar with this set, right? Wait, why do I need to use a visual aid for this? I could just do this. But I do kind of like the aesthetic. You're familiar with that set. That set right there costs less than $500. And that's not including, no, that is including all the White Claws that I had to buy for Sarah and Tommy to help me put it together. We did it in about 4 hours. It would have been shorter, but Tommy has ADHD and he was all over the place. And again, I mentioned the White Claws. I think he graduated up to just vodka tonics eventually because White Claw just doesn't get it done after a while. $500. $500 for that set. Kevin, what could we do with $100,000?
Oh my gosh.
Dude, that would be so awesome. Do you guys like our set or should we get a bigger set? I would like, you know what I would love? I would love a set where I can do part of my show like this, but then we have like a walking around set where I got a cameraman like follows me around and I play to the camera. All right, we're going to work on that for Larry 2.0 coming up next year because we're going to be reinforced with MAGA energy. All right, I digress. $100,000 for a podcast set. Now, all of this has been revealed because of the great reporting by Gabe Kaminsky, who is a friend of this program. We've interviewed him on this show before. Gabe Kaminsky, who is an investigative journalist for the Washington Examiner and also a product of the National Journalism Center. I sit on the board of that organization. By the way, if you're looking to be a journalist, an investigative journalist, if you're a college student looking for an internship, reach out and we can get you set up with the National Journalism Center through Young America's Foundation, like Gabe Kaminsky did. He did this. Kamala Harris plowed through $1 billion, and how she did it. Well, it didn't take a whole lot. I love Gabe. He's a great journalist, but he gets a lot of his scoops because he just looks where none of the other journalists are looking. This is all federally reported data. Federal election spending is public information. So he said, hey, how'd she spend the money? The $100,000 was pebbles in comparison to the $1 billion. But yeah, 6 figures on building that set for the Call Her Daddy podcast. Also, the Democrats tried to put $1 billion of lipstick on a pig, said Mike Davis, conservative lawyer and Trump ally. That's a pretty damn good quote. What about that $1 million to Oprah Winfrey? That's got to raise some eyebrows, right? First of all, are you paying celebrities to endorse you? It's like Oprah wouldn't have been there without the $1 million. Also, why does Oprah need $1 million? Isn't she like one of the richest women on the planet? Well, Oprah was in Hawaii, naturally, and TMZ tracked her down.
Hey, Oprah, good morning. How are you, darling? You're looking very good. How do you think the election went?
Not talking about the election. Thank you very much.
Oh, is it true that they paid you $1 million for the endorsement for Kamala?
Not true.
Not true. Okay.
I was paid nothing ever.
What do you think about all the celebrities with their mass exodus?
I'm not talking about.
Do you think Prince Harry's gonna lose his visa now that Trump's president? Thank you, Oprah.
Good job, TMZ. They're always there, aren't they? Let's break this down, shall we? There's a lot.
Hey, Oprah, good morning. How are you, darling? You're looking very...
How are you, darling? See, you can say that if you've got an accent. If I said that, how dare you, you sexist pig? But if I just put out I bet this guy isn't even British. That's just how he gets away with it. Hello, darling. Oh, hello. Thank you. Would you like to squeeze my bum?
Very good. How do you think the election went?
Not talking about the election. Thank you very much.
Oh, is it true that they paid you $1 million for the endorsement for Kamala?
Not true.
Not
all right. First of all, she sounds like she has a British accent when she says not true. Second of all, the question was very specific. Did they pay you $1 million for the endorsement? That might not be true. They didn't pay me for the endorsement. They paid me to appear. But she sort of wiggles out of that too, and we'll get to that in a moment. Also, one other thing, and I hate to be petty because she's a woman of a certain age at this point, but what's the deal with the hunchback? Why is she humped over? Did she just come back from like a 5-mile run? What is happening here? Why is she all stooped over and like hunched? Is she like Igor from Young Frankenstein? Look at how she's walking. I mean, maybe you should just sort of, throw those shoulders back. But now she says she follows up on the not true for $1 million for the endorsement, and she says
true. Okay.
I was paid nothing ever.
What do you?
I was paid nothing. Never. I was paid nothing. Never. Remember that. That's really it. Also, but one other item, and maybe y'all can help me. Is that an EV? I don't think that's an EV. Is that a Range Rover, or is that one of those? What do they call them? Rivons? Do you know? I know that this one, I don't know if this is her fleet. That's an EV, right? Isn't that one of those? Is it Rivon? Is that how it's pronounced? That's an EV. And maybe this is her fleet, right? Outside where the Help parks with the ocean view in Maui. But is that an EV? I don't know if it is or not. And I'd love for you. To me, it looks like a Range Rover, but I don't think those are the wheels of a Range Rover. Someone help me out there with slouchy Oprah. I was not paid anything, she says. Well, maybe she wasn't, but Gabe Kaminsky produced the receipts. Literally, this is from the Federal Elections Commission, and Oprah's production company, Harpo, was paid $1 million. 2 payments, both made on October 15th for $500,000. It's called event production. So, I mean, maybe she had a more expensive set. Where did that? So now you have to peel back the layers. I was never paid anything. Okay, well, your production company was paid. Do you get disbursements from your production company? So the production company pays you. So let's just get the shell game going right here, Oprah, because listen, I know how trustworthy you are and how believable you are. After all, you tell the American people how to vote, and they're going to do what you tell them to do. You've never been wrong. So the campaign pays Harpo Productions $1 million. Harpo Productions, I'm assuming, pays you something because, homes like that in Maui don't come free. Nor does a really good-looking Lululemon workout outfit like that come for free. So the campaign pays Harpo Productions. Harpo Productions pays you something. So I guess that's true. You were not paid by the campaign for your endorsement. The more accurate answer would be, let's just get it straight. My production company was paid $1 million by the Harris campaign. My production company pays me. There was no direct payment made. My production company, by the way, makes millions and millions of dollars from lots of different interests. million from the Harris campaign, that's nothing. Yeah, she won't say anything like that, but that's all true. It would be great if we could actually get the truth from people like this. But it is delicious to see just a week later how they spent their money on all of those concerts that was supposed to make us all feel so excited and wonderful, and none of it worked. In fact, my favorite graphic of the day is this graphic, and take a close look at it because it's not what you think. I know you see that and you immediately see Trump's victory last week, or technically on Saturday when they finally called Arizona for him, right? But that's not what this map is. Do you know what this map is? Let's blow it up so you can really see it. See those blue states? Those aren't Kamala Harris states. Those are Joe Biden states. This is exactly what the map looked like before the debate in mid-June. In mid-June, before the debate between Trump and Biden, this is what the Electoral College map looked like with all the polls trending the way they were. Now, after the debate, we had Virginia in play. We had, I think we had New Mexico in play. We had New Hampshire in play. We even had Minnesota in play. But before the debate, before all the drama, before Kamala Harris, before Brett Summer, before Tim Walz, before Oprah, before Lady Gaga, before Beyonce, even though she didn't sing, before Bruce Springsteen singing like he's constipated on stage, before all of that, before $1 billion was raised and pissed away, this is what the country looked like. And this is how we ended up. In other words, it was all a waste of time. It was all a waste of money. And the only people who end up better today than they were before it all happened, well, are us who voted the way we voted. And I guess Bruce Springsteen and Lizzo. And I suppose Oprah, although she doesn't really need it. Although, honestly, upgrade the workout clothes. I mean, I'm no billionaire, but if I'm going to be out in public, you know, I'm going to throw a little something on that's a little spiffier. Yeah. Could I sneeze, please? One more time. God, how many outtakes do we have today? What do you think, Kevin? Do we got time for this last one that I already preempted?
We got it. We can do it.
Let's do it. We owe everyone because we took the day off yesterday. Sorry for the sneezes, everybody. The country might lose a bit of its population, and not because of the mass deportations that we were promised and will get fulfilled when Tom Homan takes over as the border czar. No, we may have some Americans voluntarily leaving the country because they don't like the results of the election. Take a look at this Fox News headline. More than half of Harris voters want to relocate following Trump win, according to a survey. Go. By the way, my favorite part of this, if you actually break it down, I think the majority of these people want to go to Canada. And I think the next step is Western Europe. And then they say, some of them say to Mexico. Why don't they all go to Mexico? I don't understand. It's like, but part of the reason why we're supposed to hate Trump is because he's racist against Mexicans. And then you're so angry that he got to be president that you're going to leave. And where do you go? You go to Canada instead. I thought Mexico was wonderful. I thought it was, in fact, you know what? You should all go to Haiti. Go to Haiti. A lot of beachfront property there in Haiti. But no, they all want to relocate and leave the country. If they're, listen, I prefer that than relocating to Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, or Florida, or Ohio, or Texas. See, that's what I fear. That's it. I'm so angry, I'm relocated. I'm going to one of those swing states so we can do something different next time. I don't need that in my life. But they're all angry. They're all upset. They can't believe that he won. They refuse to actually listen to the American people. They refuse to listen to Trump supporters. They refuse to listen to us. They refuse to actually understand why this election happened because they live in their information silo. They have no curiosity. They know what they know, and there's nothing you can show them or tell them or teach them that will make them change their opinion about what they know because, by the way, a huge number of them are college educated, many of them with advanced degrees. Have you ever tried to teach somebody with a college education something new? It's amazing. When you get that education, you're just unteachable at that point. And so they refuse to actually learn something from this process. And so the only alternative is to leave this country. And it's not going to go well for them. But Mark Paoletta, who's on the short list, by the way, for Attorney General, and he would be an incredible pick. He used to work with Clarence Thomas. He's actually been a huge defender of Clarence Thomas, as there's been this assault against Justice Thomas, trying to force him to resign his position for the Supreme Court with all these trumped-up charges of corruption. Mark Paoletta has something to say about it.
Mark, your response to some of the PTSD claims.
You know, Brian, who would have thought it's controversial that when a new boss comes in with a new agenda, that the people who work there are going to support the president's agenda, right? Only in the federal government, only with a deep swamp do people, career employees think that they get to run.
Larry, you're muted.
Sorry, I can set this up better, and I should set this up better, and I apologize. I forgot what this clip did. So let me just do that real fast. But the desire to relocate and move to Canada or Norway or, yes, even Mexico, as long as you can, be in Cabo and get your tequila for cheap, that's not where it ends. We've also got a problem in Washington, D.C. See, there's a lot of people who work in the federal government, in the Justice Department, the FBI, the Pentagon, and the intelligence agencies, but even in the Department of Agriculture, who are entrenched there, who are part of the bureaucracy. And, well, they don't like the way this election went. But instead of leaving and getting out, they want to stay and they want to resist. In fact, they're already making noise that they're going to be part of the big resistance within Washington, keeping Trump from actually carrying out his agenda. Now, Mark Paoletta is a lawyer and has been in Washington, D.C. for many decades. He's on the short list for Attorney General. Let's see how he would deal with lawyers and FBI investigators not actually towing the line and doing what they're ordered to do by the new Attorney General and the new administration.
Mark, your response to some of the PTSD claims.
You know, Brian, who would have thought it's controversial that when a new boss comes in with a new agenda, that the people who work there are going to support the president's agenda, right? Only in the federal government, only with a deep swamp do people, career employees think that they get to run the joint, as it were. President Trump, was reelected with an overwhelming majority of an agenda by the American people, popularly supported. So deporting millions of illegal aliens out of this country, securing the border, banning DEI, all that destructive stuff that the Biden administration let run wild, getting boys out of girls' sports. Those are all the things that the Department of Justice is going to work on. And those are the things that the Department of Justice employees, career employees, are going to support. And if they don't want to support it, they should leave.
They should leave. They should absolutely leave. The last thing they should do is stay there and then fight from within and undermine. And then, of course, the anonymous leaks come, and then you get the press narratives, and half of it is bogus. And this is how an administration gets crippled. But they've been through this, and we're constantly told by the Trump team that they've learned their lessons, they know better, and they won't let it happen again. Well, we'll see. But it seems pretty simple to me. I've worked for many companies in my past, and sometimes ownership changes, management changes. They come up with a new direction that they want to go, and you have a choice. You either stay on board and you continue, or you find work elsewhere. Lord knows if you're a lawyer right now working in the Justice Department, you have plenty of job opportunities in Washington, D.C. That's what K Street is all about, and you can do just fine. If you willingly choose to stay in the Department of Justice, you can single-handedly undermine and block the efforts of the incoming president. Well, then there's a word for that. There's a very specific word for that, and it is literally treasonous behavior. This isn't about you, and this isn't about your feelings, and I'm sorry that you believe that you in some way are the last bastion of truth, hope, and liberty in this government, and that you're the only one keeping true to the founding documents. But that's not how it works in Washington, D.C. At least it's not how it's supposed to work, and it's not how it's going to work moving forward if Donald Trump actually makes good on his promises. And here's the real sad truth. If you really want to resist this White House, if you really want to block them and stop them, you frankly have a lot more possibilities doing that outside of the Justice Department as a private sector lawyer or working for one of the Soros-funded nonprofits that will file lawsuits trying to stop everything that the Trump administration does. Why don't you do that? And the only answer is because you love the power you've got. You love being within the system and using the power of the federal government. Because let's face it, when you're a lawyer working for Smith and Wesson and Bernstein and O'Connor on some law firm on K Street and you send somebody an official lawyer letter, yeah, they may get intimidated or they may just throw it in the shredder. But when you send somebody a letter from the Department of Justice, you make them pee their pants and you get off on that. You love that. You love the power you wield and you love the fear you put into people when you wield that power, the weapon of the Justice Department of the United States government against an individual citizen. You love it. You're intoxicated by it, and that's why you want to stay in, and that's why you want to undermine it. You know that there's huge rewards if you do. You know that you've got a CNN contract if you end up resisting Trump. Look at Andy McCabe. Look at Jim Clapper. Look at John Brennan. Look at all of these people. Peter Strzok, for God's sake. They all ended up getting jobs on cable news. You learned your lesson, and that's exactly what you're going to do. Oh, they can't clean house fast enough. Oh, but there's more. Let's get to Scott Jennings because he knows exactly what time it is, and he always has something good to say to finish things up over on CNN.
On discussions at the Pentagon. I don't know at what level this is. It just seems like it's informal discussions. I guess it's understandable they would have those discussions. It also... Scott, is it?
Look, I don't like this because what's Donald Trump supposed to think? You know, he's sitting down there, he's the president-elect, and now he's got to read the newspaper tonight that the unelected bureaucracy of the federal government is having meetings at some level about how to thwart or countermand the commander-in-chief. I don't care if it's at the Pentagon or at the HUD or Ag Department. It doesn't matter. The unelected bureaucracy of this government answers to the civilian and duly elected leadership that we just did. And what if you were in his shoes and you just won the popular vote with a clear mandate and now you got to read that these unelected bureaucrats are plotting against you? What would you think? If they have problems, let me finish. If they have problems, they should not have meetings that then leak to the press. If they have ideas or things, they should call the president's office and say, hey, we'd like to have some discussions for planning purposes. But secret meetings that leak, terrible way to get off to a start with the new administration.
Well, I agree that that's maybe not the best way to do it. However, Trump has set them up to be in this situation where they think that he's coming after them.
Well, think about the logic there from Gretchen Carlson. You know, well, listen, he's made them think that they're coming after him. So what else are they supposed to do other than behave in a way that forces him to come after them? I mean, they're only human. I love that the victims here are the people inside the State Department who have leaked information about this private phone call between Donald Trump and President Zelensky, which apparently Elon Musk was sitting in the room as well for the phone call. And who cares? Jimmy Carter used to have his 13-year-old daughter attend meetings when he was at the White House. Joe Biden has his unelected wife run cabinet meetings. Donald Trump can have whoever the hell he wants sitting in the room while he has a private conversation. They can't stand the fact that you elected this guy, which makes last week's results even that much better. It's not just about winning and playing the game by their rules. It's not even all about being in the majority in this country by winning the non-existent and truly, frankly, unimportant popular vote, but it just takes a weapon away from them so they can't claim that. And it's even more than Donald Trump coming in and finishing the job in the next 4 years that he started and then got preempted by the anomaly of the 2020 election. No, as usual, the best part of all of this is what's happening to them, what their reaction is, how they can't help but expose themselves, whether it's people in the media who have been living fat and large off of the status quo and undermining your ideas, your principles, and your values, or the people who work within the government who cannot help themselves just 1 week into the transition team, and they cannot help themselves but act like they're the victim, that this election was really all about them and their hurt feelings. So far, so much so that they're undermining the president-elect on an international conversation that he's having with a foreign leader engaged in one of the most important armed conflicts on the planet right now. And they believe that this is about them and their hurt feelings and what they think should be done and how they believe things should be handled. And they may be right about how it should be handled. Maybe they should run for president. Until they do, sit down and, with all due respect, shut the hell up. All right, that's it for today. I have no more sneezes. I have no more preemptive. Here's the problem, guys, and thank you for watching today. We'll be back next time, and I'll give you a sign off in a minute. But we did take the day off. I was traveling. Every fall, I go to Vegas with my brother. So I left Thursday. I was there Friday through yesterday, and then yesterday my flight out of Vegas was at noon, and I was to get home last night at 8 o'clock, and then I was going to do my radio show this morning, and then this show at noon. My flight at noon from Vegas yesterday was delayed until 11 p.m. I ended up flying overnight. I was at the airport for 13 hours. I flew overnight. I landed at 6 a.m., didn't do my radio show this morning, got home, got a couple hours sleep, and then we did this show. So I'm a little rusty. That's why I made a few mistakes today. So I promise. It is a Range Rover. Thank you, Vic. William Ramey, $10. U.S. citizens' rights do not end where FEMA's employees' fears begin. Thank you. I don't care if they're uncomfortable. You feel unsafe. Thank you, William. Well said, sir. You're a patriot. Buzzy181, thank you for that $3 super sticker. Consider it stuck. Yes, that was a Range Rover. The Rivian was behind. So why is Oprah not driving an EV in Maui? Why is she spewing all of that ugly carbon emissions into the atmosphere? Unbelievable. All right. We got nothing else. Kevin, am I missing anything? Can I go back to sleep? Now that I've relayed all of my travails. I had a great weekend with the Detroit Lions, by the way, and Navy football. Can I tell you a quick thing I did? Navy won. I took the winnings and I put it on Army because it's Veterans Day weekend, right? Army wins, and then I'm looking at Air Force, and Air Force has not had a good season. They have not had a good season. Okay, they've lost badly to both Navy and Army, but Air Force was the later game, right? Navy was an early game. Army's midday. So I roll over my winnings from Army, and I'm sitting on it. I've got cash in my hand. And I'm like, do I do it? Do I do it? Do I put money on Air Force? Air Force was playing Fresno State. And Air Force won. I did not put any money on. I felt I should have. It would have been the greatest Veterans Day story. But it's Air Force. They're having a lousy year. And, I love the troops. I love the Air Force cadets. I love the midshipmen at the Naval Academy a little more. And I'm not going to apologize for making sure I kept my money. And I kept my money, and we did very well. Go Lions. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow, same time. In the meantime, my name's Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry.